Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a great day. Happy Monday. And obviously, hope you had a great weekend. We did pretty well ourselves as a community, just kind of throwing it out there. Took some nice profits. XRP and Ondo, we really just want to get out of those trades, so we secured a majority of profit there. But Litecoin, that was a Litecoin long, Radium short, Solana short, and Cardano short. As you can see, there's no SUI shorts on there, of course, because that's just not a coin I like to short. But the truth is there are a lot of confirming factors here that a long seems much more viable now than it did obviously a couple days ago. So we're going to talk about what to look for these trend reversals, which is kind of currently happening right now, and obviously kind of quickly peek over at the back end liquidation data too, and just see if there's any incentive for the price to run a little bit further. Again, if you're part of my community, thanks again for being an awesome part of my life. Appreciate the wonderful feedback to my community with the new Premium Plus trading strategy. While it isn't like phenomenal, it's really good. What I mean by that is we've averaged a pretty decent amount of profit in just a short amount of time. In the last week's worth of trading after revising the take profit strategy, $50 per trade, we've averaged about $300 profit in 1 week. So decent growth there. If that continues, I'm going to definitely recommend this be more of a consistent mainstay, or we increase our balance per trade. But for right now, the early prototype, so to speak, is looking pretty good. So congrats to our committee who's finding good profit there as well. Just again, keep in mind, still a little early on the strategy. Another couple months or so, we're going to be ready to rock and roll to increase our balance and or the amount per trade. So what we want to look at here, first of all, actually, let me leave that on here just so you can kind of see that in a minute. Back in liquidation data, we got huge amount of liquidation on the downside, but we're much further away from that now. We've also established higher highs and higher lows since then. So keep in mind, trying just to short to that 280 level is inherently more risky now that we've kind of broken through that descending trend, that threshold. Okay. Again, I mentioned the closure above 320 would be a pretty solid indication we're back on track. Likely to continue higher here. So we're going to see if a long is potentially viable. But again, from a liquidation standpoint, there's a decent chunk between $3.60 and $4 as a rough estimate that is more likely to get swept than even this lower range now that we've kind of shifted gears. You got to keep in mind though, Bitcoin is misbehaving. I'm sure you probably know that by now. It's kind of hanging out in like the 90, 96, or we saw almost 94K recently, upwards of 100,000. It kind of stuck in that little range. Bitcoin breaks 100,000. We'll be back up to $4 plus, easy for SUI. But between now and then, we're seeing a lot of resistance, a lot of selling pressure, just based on that fear increasing. Okay, so please understand that. But from a macro perspective, there's not a lot of immediate liquidation in the current range. So I think we're going to see natural trading conditions here, potentially less manipulation moving forward, at least for the time being. Okay. Take a look here, liquidation delta. We can see a lot more longs than shorts. So what do you do, folks, in that situation? You don't go running headfirst into oncoming traffic, which would be taking a short position right now because it's overextended. You don't do that. Trading overextensions needs to come with other contributing factors. Some people just try to short the top because they feel like it's gone up for the last 24 hours. It hasn't stopped. I'm just going to short now. That's actually when you don't want to short because the likelihood of continuation is greater. So please, seeing this liquidation delta tells me there's more people taking longs than shorts. In turn, I'm not going to want to try to short against that. Take a look here as well. This is open interest. Open interest really helps us understand what the average amount of positions people have in the last week's worth of trading here. This is a 7-day look back. So what this basically tells us is we have resistance at 345 upwards of 360. We've known that for a while. There's going to be some exit liquidity when the price comes up to that level. People trying to close their positions to break even. For right now, we have a lot of people adding to their position between 308 and 320. So that tells us we got support in the low $3 range. So decent amount of options here as far as, in other words, more likelihood the price should continue higher because we're building more support below the price action. Okay, I'll touch on this here in a moment because again, I like to kind of explain what goes into my playout charts too. If you're not familiar, I post those on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. We could actually look at the playout chart here right now for SUI from Saturday. And the concept is that the price will either come up to its resistance at that 315 to 316 range and pull back, which it kind of did, but it also continued higher after it swept that extra little bit of liquidation. In other words, it pulled back first, continued up. The key takeaway here is that the X in the chart is really what I'm looking for confirmation when you have a bullish backtest of that key level support. Okay, and again, the key level support is roughly 315 to 320. It's that range. We've got our point of control right there at the same thing. A lot of important stuff to recognize there. Okay, again, we were in kind of dire straits the last time we looked at this, so it's never generally best to try to take a long into that much liquidation. But the truth is that level held pretty well. Liquidation delta has since shifted, and obviously we can see open interest starting to dissipate as people start to close their positions. Okay, so again, those are all things we look for. How that's relevant on the daily time frame is that, well, we're going to be bearish on the daily time frame. Keep in mind, the majority of altcoins right now that are doing well today are super bearish on the daily time frame. So please understand, take this with a grain of salt. We haven't shifted bullish by any stretch yet because we're still under some key levels, specifically that point of control, that macro point of control at about 370. Okay, again, so once we get there, we got to presume the price will pull back, or at least initially reject. But between now and then, everything here on the daily time frame is still looking fairly bearish, right? Even though we got a nice little stochastic swing to the upside, that's a good consolation. MACD's trying to converge, but hasn't yet. There's a lot of early signs here kind of saying, hey, we got this shift in momentum occurring, but we haven't broken bullish by any stretch. You're going to see this happen probably for another 3 or 4 days, even if we have a pretty significant run. So keep in mind, macro should be taken with, again, grain of salt, just generally giving you the premise of what's going on overall. And that we haven't shifted gears yet. So what does that mean for you? It means you lower your risk by taking lower leverage and lower position size trades until we confirm we're back on track. Until Bitcoin's over 100,000, I'm not going to feel confident in taking a higher risk trade, if you will, or actually it may inherently be lower risk, but a trade with more leverage and or larger position size. If that makes sense. Again, my risk tolerance is different for everyone, different than others, and everyone has a different risk tolerance, so it's important to recognize that. Anyways, all that being said here, let's take a quick look at the 4 hour and see what's up. We're still under the 50-day SMA. Generally speaking, I wouldn't say it's a bearish sign. It just means we haven't broken bullish on the midterm. And the 4 hour time frame to me is probably one of the best time frames. If I literally had to give up every single time frame and just choose one, this would be it. Again, it speaks well to the 4 hour transitions and just kind of an overall sentiment. We've been over the 20-day SMA for a while. That's extremely important. That's check number 1. Check number 2 is breaking this descending trend line, essentially establishing higher highs and higher lows. So you can see here, we have slightly higher lows, and then of course an obvious break of that resistance with a retest here, which we can see on smaller time frames. So again, we are establishing a nice little pattern here. Keep in mind, a lot of flag patterns do work this way. They start this way, or they kind of derive from the downside. That's why it's important to wait for the price action to confirm above specific levels. So I feel much more confident taking a long, and I would say that a bearish flag is probably a lot less likely to play out because there's other confirming factors telling us we're shifting that momentum. We're over 50 on the RSI here. Money flow index is high. High MFI, or at least MFI above the RSI on an uptrend when you break a resistance is generally a very favorable sign. Same thing with stochastic as well. MACD converging. There's majority of indicators here minus the 20-day SMA letting us know we're back on track. Okay, so that's good. It's really good. And the hourly time frame is probably going to reflect a very similar behavior. It really is different, where we can see a nice break, lagging spans free and clear, conversion lines over the baseline. There's every reason why a long position makes much more sense than a short. The only caveat here is that Bitcoin is not overperforming yet, right? So still a little premature, still a little early, and it has one of two options: to run towards 100,000 or to dump towards 95. That's basically been par for the course for the last almost week's worth of trading. Just complete ripsaw. So again, trade within that range. That's where we're at right now. It's the options we have, and right now it makes more sense to trade to the upside with SUI than it would the inverse, of course. Okay, so that's what we got. That's good stuff. I would say that I'm probably likely to send out a trade alert with the consideration of taking a long position here with SUI here shortly. I'll post that playout chart on our Twitter, Telegram, or Discord, of course, as per usual. If you want access to my playout charts, the trade alerts, perhaps even our plus trades here as well. And then obviously my traditional trades, which we've seen some nice profits here, folks, too. Awesome. We had to really be dynamic this weekend, flip short, and now essentially at this point we maybe want to considering some longs. It's you gotta roll with the punches, folks. That's all there is to it. This market's been giving us a lot of trash, and it's important to be malleable. All right. Anyways, looking forward to hearing from you if you want to reach out. I look forward to working with you too. Have a good rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.